Are we ready?
Fuck it.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Just fake it till you make it. Here we go.
Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call.
Shriner Cuomo.
Yeah.
Wilson Bell.
Yeah.
4 Heroes in 94.
Yeah.
Save Me from Hell.
Roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call.
My name is Phonte.
Yeah.
Not Jesus or Miro.
Yeah.
Found out about Weezer.
Yeah.
Playing on Guitar Hero.
Roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call.
My name is Sugar.
Yeah.
I'm such a geezer.
Yeah.
My first concert
Yeah.
was the actual Buddy Holly. Suprema, Suprema, roll call. I got you.
Suprema, roll call.
I'm me.
Yes.
Me be.
Yeah.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
I am.
Roll call. Nice one, Suprema. Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call.
My name is Patrick Wilson.
Yes.
I live in New York City.
Yes.
I want to say hi to my wife
Yes.
because she's exceptionally pretty.
Roll call. Nice. Suprema from downtown. Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call.
My name is Jonas.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not.
Yeah.
It's Rivers.
Yeah.
Busted rhymes on the spot.
Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call. Suprema, Suprema, roll call.
That's the first time a guest has ever voluntarily raised their hand to go next. That was
Yes,
impressive.
I was like-
that was
my turn.
First and only. Well done.
Every other guest is like,
yeah,
not
that was
me. I'm
great.
not doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Questlove Supreme. I am Questlove, your host. Team Supreme, hello, good people. How
Good
are we?
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Fucking
coffee.
awesome.
Good morning. Nothing happened
It's
today
very-
yet.
nothing happened today?
Nope, not yet. Not yet.
Too early.
Speaking of 94,
Yo.
ooh, whoa,
Right.
wow. April of 94 being the domino that also ends in June. Wait, how do you know the date by heart?
I'm talking about OJ.
Yeah, I know that you're talking about O.J. Simpson. Well, who commits that to memory?
Oh, I'm
Oh, because the basketball game. And
No, I was unemployed that summer, so I watched the whole trial.
You weren't working at Electric Lady then?
No, it was right before I started.
What year
there.
did you start there?
96. Yeah, middle of
All
96.
right, so this is way after you guys. Okay, let's see. Basically, I will probably say that today's conversation is long overdue. I think everyone thinks that they have a special relationship with an entity or whatever, like theirs is unique alone. But I think that my relationship to our guest today, when I tell the folklore of the roots time at DGC Records, those were really, really lean years. So I can't believe I'm telling this story.
I love
it. So pretty much, for quick survival money,
CD closet.
CDs.
You went to the CD closet.
Yeah, wait, you too?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, yo, dog! Wait, the way that I'm like,
That was too
wait,
easy.
I wonder
Yeah, they all.
Oh,
I
my
wonder.
God.
I'm like all under trepidation. I'm like, I don't know if I should tell this story or not. Yo, but I will say, wait a minute. But how you guys, who are the people that provided in some indirect way the finances for my survival in '94,
Not even
Yeah.
also doing the same thing?
Hey, we were We were going there in '93, and it was like Guns N' Roses, "Use Your Illusion."
Yes.
Oh my god.
White
That
Snake.
saved our
White Snake.
dude.
Abuse.
I literally thought that
you
I
were
was
selling them, you saying?
You're hawking
Yeah.
them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that
It was-
what you're
was-
saying?
That was our ramen.
Okay.
money.
I thought you were
dog.
just taking CDs to listen to.
Nah.
Okay. So this is a crime. All right. True
Yes, a
crime stories
Yes, I committed
on
crime
Questlove Supreme.
using our guest today. No, seriously, like. But the thing is that I was always shocked. The period that I was doing it, in my mind, I'm like, okay, they'll want the spaghetti incident, Use Your Losing, And it was like, no, all the Neil Young, Geffen era records, trans, all that stuff. Nah, they wanted Weezer. And then one day, after like 6 months of hawking you guys, I'm like, all right, let me listen to this. And then I became more obsessed. And then once I started reading about like your Kiss obsession and all that stuff, I was like, wow, like there's some weird kinship here. And plus, you know, I really credit you guys more than anything for launching, at least making me aware of Spike Jonze as a video director. And so, anyway, longest intro in history. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Weezer to the show. Rivers, Pat. Yeah, welcome. I had a whole like scroll of fan letter to do the intro, but I decided not to do that.
Just a confession. That's all.
Yeah. Are you really shocked that
Just a crime.
No, I think
this was
it's-
going down?
No, you got to do what you got to do.
You never did that?
I've stolen so much shit from you, from everybody. Are you kidding me?
You're not supposed to say that. So wait, first thing I'll ask is, and you know, you're running out of colors, and I'm highly jealous of the synesthesia of it all, like the fact that, you know, each album represents a mood or whatever. I'm so jealous that you guys really got to explore that. Is it cringeworthy to listen to your first record? Like, do you accept where you were as artists when you were making this in '93, or is it you listen to it and you're like, that stanza could have been better, or this mix could have been better, or like, are you overly critical?
For me, I'm less critical now than I was then when we finished it. I remember at the time thinking we made some big mistakes, specifically like I wish we had gone bigger with the drum sound, and then we did exactly that on our second record, Pinkerton. We just turned up the room mics.
Compression, more of that.
Yeah.
But now it's like, yeah, that's what the album sounds. It sounds how it's supposed to sound. I love it.
Even though I'm sticking with the Blue album, I'll probably say that in terms of like when we talk about the artist departure album in a person's canon, do you guys ever tire of super fans trying to one up each other with how Pinkerton, like, they have a total understanding of Pinkerton as an album? And
you know, fans are gonna fan, and that's great. And I don't think I should be like paying too much attention to that stuff.
right.
What I care about is like, I just want, when we play a concert, I want as much harmony as possible in the room, just like everyone to be united. I love that feeling. So the only time that's a problem is when like you have different segments of the crowd want to hear different songs. But that's why it's great to like play huge venues sometimes, and then sometimes play really little venues. You know, the super hardcore fans, they're going to want to hear Pinkerton, some B-sides, that kind of thing. That's super fun too.
I would trust, and I assume that come 2026, you guys will.
If we can get past the Blue album thing, that would be fun. Yeah.
What is it like to return to it? Do you have seminal memories of the making of the album? And you know, I'm also kind of jealous that you guys know what Electric Lady was like when the dome was in front of it.
Oh yeah.
The brick,
Yes.
Yeah. Wait, were you there with us the day we were going to protest? And
Yeah.
We were-
Trying to like tie ourselves to.
yeah, the last day the last day of the dome that was in front of Electric Lady.
He's calling it a dome, but it's a rounded brick wall.
Well,
Or a dome.
Or a dome goes above you.
A sphere.
a sphere-ish, but yes, okay. So it's at the time I thought it was an igloo or whatever. I mean, I don't know what to make of it, but
It's a rounded brick wall.
yeah, brick wall, circular brick wall, because Jimi Hendrix didn't believe in corners.
Yeah.
Oh really?
And yeah, so our first week there of doing D'Angelo's Voodoo, and we found out they were going to knock the wall down, and we were going to go all vigilant and chain ourselves to the front door, like in front of the breaker, and then of course at 6 a.m. none of us were
No.
up to stand in front of it.
No.
Oh well.
We got to work like, it's going. Oh, gee. So for our fan base that aren't familiar with you guys, could you briefly tell me about your beginnings? Well, I'll start with you. Actually, let me start with you, Pat.
All right.
Do you remember what was your first musical memory in life?
Barry Manilow.
What?
Yeah.
That's
This one's for you.
Wow.
Like his face on the cover
Yeah.
is huge. I don't know why I liked it, but I was like, it was pretty small.
Nice.
Yeah.
it was unavoidable. Also,
Yeah.
you know.
You like the Even Now album? That's the one. 1978.
It all sounds like a 70s movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it.
Yeah, the same mellow intro. And
Yeah.
exactly.
Don't
So
get me started.
you mean purchasing that record or just?
I don't know how I got it, but I got it. My brother and sister are much older than me. They're like in their early 70s now, so they would leave records lying around.
Trickle
and,
down.
Like, oh, here's weird Neil Young record. Here's, the Who, Quadrophenia, all this stuff.
All right.
And I just thought they were great to throw, as a little kid.
As frisbees?
Yeah, this is whatever. But eventually I started listening to it. Stuff like Van Halen, then I got into on my own, or like Rush.
Right.
And that's when I, got into rock more.
Where were you born?
Buffalo,
Okay.
Buffalo, New York, upstate.
Nice. All right, Rivers.
It's okay.
What was your first musical memory? It was all right.
First memory would be listening to my dad play the drums.
Okay.
He was a jazz drummer, so it would have been him and his buddies jamming.
Who did he play with? Wayne Shorter.
Wayne Shorter.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He made it onto a Wayne Shorter session in 1970, right here, I think in Manhattan or Brooklyn.
Okay.
And,
What was your dad's name?
Frank Cuomo.
Okay.
So
Not Francis.
actually, legally, it's Francis. Yeah. How did you know that?
I just. I didn't know that.
We're in a band together.
So your father playing drums around the house, that was your first musical memory?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really, I read this interview long ago. We described, I guess, the discovery of Kiss was your kind of come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
It's so weird that you actually listen to the music. I was obsessed with Kiss, but only as to whenever we would go to like department stores or whatever, like Sears, I would immediately beeline for the record section and just stay there for like the 2-hour duration while they're shopping around. And I would obsess over these record covers, but never listen to the music. So, like, I think my first experience was Love Gun and Christine 16. But for yours, like, what was it about you actually listened to the music? Like, I just got as far as the cover, and that was it. Try to imagine what they sounded like.
Yeah. Well, so when I was 5 or so, my family moved to an ashram, and we were pretty cut off from pop culture at that point. There was a lot of like Sanskrit chanting. That was my main music experience at that point.
That's
But
what I listen to now.
but there was some hippie music too. I remember Cat Stevens, Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, that kind of stuff. I would hear those records. But then there was this one girl who was my age. She came and visited the ashram. Her name was Shanti, and she had Rock and Roll Over by Kiss. So it's probably 77. And
She poisoned the whole ashram with that.
she accidentally left it, and
It
we
all went downhill.
we put it on the record player, and we had like a little cassette player also. So we pressed record
And tape it.
as the record was going, and so then I had a recording of this record, and that's the only Kiss album I had at that point.
Right.
It's really the only kind of rock or intense music I had, but we would listen to it over and over. But it had the sound of my brother and I running around the coffee table in circles over and over, like spazzing out as we're listening to this rock
Oh my
music. So that's what I listened to for a couple of years. And then I started going to record stores myself, exactly like you did. And I went straight to the K section to find the Kiss albums and like, yeah, this is incredible.
Now, cut to my mom in 77 saying, "Honey boy, that's the devil's music. That's kids in Satan's snare."
What?
Well, I got to add to the story. I don't know if you guys know this story. So, I grew up. My father was like a doo-wop singer in the 50s. And so by the 70s, he's going through his, what I can call like the revival phase. Like whatever was
70s,
20.
50s.
Yeah,
Happy
exactly.
Days and shit.
And so, yeah, anything that had remotely to do with doo-wop music or, the revival of American Graffiti, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Grease, all that stuff. My dad was a part of it. But somehow, like, he got off that circuit and sort of pivoted to just a regular nightclub act, of which in the 70s, if you're looking for a good time on, a weeknight or whatever, you go to your local Holiday Inn, and somewhere in the bar there's, some legend of yesteryear playing. So weird enough, this is in Buffalo, New York, 1978. And I guess the protocol of the day is that acts would stay at the airport hotel always because it's right next to the airport. And we did about 3 weeks at this, I think, a Sheridan in Buffalo, of which, Boston came through.
Yeah.
The group Kansas
also
came through.
A lot of city and state named.
Yeah, exactly. But one particular night, it was on a Friday night, and all I remember was that this might have been 79. I remember Dan Hartman just did his second song on Midnight Special. It was like whatever the follow-up song was to Instant Replay. I think a song called This Is It. So he does it, and the credits are going up, and I was thirsty. It's like, I guess like 1:30, 2 in the morning. And I go on I go to the dresser, grab 50 cents to get a soda, and I walk in the hallway. Now, this is a circular hotel. And I walk in the hallway to the soda machine, get my soda, and then the elevator, bing, opens. Now, I'm 8 years old, and that entire album cover artwork is now coming to life. Like it's fucking Chris and Ace and Paul and Gene and their bodyguards in kind of post makeup.
That fuck you up?
So it's a circular hotel. All I remember was I looked and I screamed and I ran to the right, but the thing was I actually ran past them twice.
It was Satan, literally ascending.
So they were performing there for 3 days, and instantly it was like elation, curiosity, but mostly terror, because also I saw Kiss Meets the Phantom.
Oh my God.
Which, as an 8-year-old, like that totally fucked with me. I mean, now it's a total camp film, but the next day, I remember going to the game room in hotels. All the arcade games and pinball games would have arcades inside of those hotels, and I remember going down there, and it was it's like something out of Almost Famous. Like all these women, like seeing Paul without his makeup on, and Gene, and they signed autographs and whatnot, and that was like, and someone gave me a Christine 1645.
Oh, dude.
And that was kind of my my Kiss induction.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, but
Core memory.
as I got older, I was taught that's not. I'm listening to older generation. That's not real rock. Like that's camp rock. But what was it that spoke to you?
Yeah, it's weird because I know they're not supposed to be the most credible rock act of all time, but they sure seem to inspire a lot of kids our age at that time, and a lot of us went on to start bands ourselves. So I'm not sure what it was, because in my case, I didn't have the visual. It was just the music. I mean, I had seen briefly the album cover, but it's just this weird kind of abstract thing of a design of their faces. I didn't know what they looked like or what the costumes were or about the pyro or the production. I just had the music. And that was enough to completely get me excited. It was the sound of the guitar, the intense riffage,
Right.
and the the sound of their singing, Paul Stanley going up into that falsetto. I didn't understand what the lyrics were at all.
Have you ever met them?
I was going to say, have
Or
you met them and
in
have
a
they broke your
circular-
heart yet? Have they broke your heart?
Recently, we met him.
Yeah, I met him a couple times, but recently we just played. We opened for them. They asked us to open for them at their
Wow.
last show in Australia. So we're
Gene
like,
was
sure.
nice.
He, I was so excited.
This will be a first. But go ahead. Was Gene nice?
My guess is.
They were in this. They were doing this big meet and greet with all these fans, and they interrupted the line to bring Weezer in there and say hi. And I was so excited. And they're so tall. They're like 7 feet tall in these big heels. And I went up so expectant, and Gene saw me. And what did he say? He was like, Rivers, you're gonna be famous in jail. And then,
It was
That's a
like,
quote for the ages.
you'll be the most famous guy in jail. And you were like, what does that mean? He's like, it doesn't have to mean anything.
and
We
to
were like,
this day,
a t-shirt.
I'm still puzzling it over. Like, what does that mean? And it sounds so significant, but I'm not sure.
It's kind of weird now because, yeah, like when I've seen him a few times, and he's been to the Tonight Show, whatever, and he kind of talks like who's the comedian Jackie?
Jackie Mason.
Jackie Mason.
Oh, Jackie
like
Mason.
it's
Yeah.
Like
No, he was trying to be funny. And
he has a
didn't
cat
land, I guess.
skills level. Like I wasn't used to that. Like
Yeah.
But
everything was did it.
Yeah.
I was like, is this Gene Simmons that I've heard it like that sort of thing? But
Yeah.
But the other time I met him was probably around 2000. It was some private movie screening, and he sat next to me. And I remember the one thing he said was, just whatever you do, make sure you screw over your hardcore fans. Because
He's
they're
really
gonna
giving
lead-
you some notable quotables.
Don't listen to them. They're going to lead you astray. They want you to stay the same.
was the
And you're
design-
like, well, I liked it when you guys wore makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
I always wondered if the design of the Weezer logo was that your like brainchild to come up with something that will stick with the fan base in a way that the Kiss logo, like many of us would
Draw it.
just draw it in
Yeah,
school.
and in the 80s in high school, you'd spend a lot of time drawing band logos in your notebook as you're supposed to be listening to the teacher.
Right.
Right? And it wasn't just Kiss. There was many of them.
It's a standard Gen X move. Like Van Halen. Like I just drove VHs all day.
AC/DC.
Yeah.
All day.
Do kids do that still?
I don't think
No.
Captain Kirk still does that.
He does.
Yeah. I have a question, though, still with regards to Kiss, but maybe this will segue. Was it Kiss that got you to that? Were they the reason you wanted to go to Electric Lady, or was that a Ric Ocasek decision?
It was Ric. He pronounced it Ocasek. Ocasek. Yeah, that was his call. He wanted us to come to New York, and he wanted us to work at that studio. But of course, I immediately made the connection because I remember staring at the back of those LPs for hours on end, just kind of reading them over, not knowing what anything meant. But it's like Electric Lady. It's like, yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, they did a bunch of records there.
Yeah, they did. Briefly, I want you to briefly explain your stint working at Tower on Sunset. What period were you working at Tower Records on Sunset?
I worked there like all of 90 and half of 91.
Okay. Was the folk, even though I've worked at a record store once before, like to me, that was like one of my first fantasies in life. Like everyone's playing house and Doctor, and I would play record store in the house. What was it like back then? Like your experience in, like, were you the cool kind of tastemaker guy that I would ask, like, okay, so what are you into? Like, give me something. Were you that person?
No, I was the opposite. Yeah, when I got there, I was pretty much straight from the sticks in Connecticut, upstate Connecticut, and I'd just grown up listening to like heavy metal music, and I came to LA to be a shredder, and I got a job there, and the other people there were a few years older, which meant a lot at the time, even just a few years, and they had a much broader knowledge of the history of music, and especially rock music and alternative music. I didn't know anything about that. So working there was a real education, and I got exposed to all different kinds of music. And slowly my own style evolved from being, a Metallica cover band type to what you hear on the Blue Album.
First of all, what was Sunset Boulevard like for that period of which, from the books that I've read of Neil Strauss and the Motley Crue stuff, like, were you thinking that you would have to morph into what was then the glam hair rock scene? Or
Yeah, so I got to Sunset Boulevard in 1989,
Right.
and it was probably the last year of that phase, and it was just a paradise for metalheads. Is every Friday and Saturday night is packed with hundreds, thousands of kids and like guys with long teased hair and wearing spandex and passing out flyers. And I was coming from a more, again, like shreddy progressive metal type of thing.
Who were your heroes?
Not at all glam. I mean, the best well known would be Metallica, but I was also into lesser known bands like maybe Yngwie. He's pretty well known, like more like shreddy instrumental type music. Yeah,
No girls.
Yeah, it was
Not anywhere.
Yeah,
I
and
get it.
so yeah, we didn't fit in when we got to the Sunset Strip. We tried to make it a little more poppy for sure.
was it easy to amalgamate in the scene at all, or did you feel like an outcast? Or
It didn't quite work. The band broke up. The guys moved back to Connecticut. Yeah, and that's when I got the job at Tower.
but the plan was literally like, let's go to California and
Yeah,
try
like
to-
we're going to be huge. People are going to love the
Listen to this arpeggio. They're not going to be able to resist.
That upstate Connecticut sound.
Well, how do you feel about the perception of Weezer versus what you really feel you are in your heart? Because I think that if someone were to say, like, to try to paraphrase what you guys are on surface, I'm certain you've read or whatever. It's like, okay, like this whole Revenge of the Nerds thing, like, because I know that at early Root shows, we would have conflicts about it because my perception was that Tariq was upset that I was too dweeby in interviews and publicly, and then once like the internet started, and that like I made my thing known, the sort of champagne life that he was expecting that we were all going to have as a rap group was passing us by, and like all the nerds were coming here, and that's always been like a silent. Now, of course, like we have an embracement of our audience, but I think in the very beginning there was kind of resentment that, like, wait, why does our audience look like Ahmir? Like, but how did you feel with, because again, only having known you guys as a very convenient way for me to have $100 in my pocket that weekend for whatever I wanted, hawking the CDs.
$100?
Yeah, but once I listened to it, and then when I looked at the cover, I was like, well, wait a minute, these aren't like rock-looking guys or whatever. And so, how do you feel about like the idea that you guys are the catnip to sort of nerd nation that never felt seen?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of conflict, especially when we first broke through. And it's interesting to hear that you guys went through the same thing, a similar thing.
Oh, we're still going through it. I just accept it.
Yeah, I feel way more accepting now too, and I think our core fans really know that there's a lot more to us than the quirky image, and whether it's the emotional catharsis of Pinkerton or the 8-minute guitar shreddage and Only in Dreams on the first album. It's like they know there's a ton of emotional depth there. And as long as we have that connection with with that audience, I feel pretty satisfied. But early on, yeah, we were, people just took us at face value, and that's why, like, on the album cover, I was like, I'm taking my glasses off, or in the Buddy Holly video, I take the glasses off. I don't want to just be a shtick, And when we put the record out, they're like, okay, we're going to send out this bio, so give the press an introduction to who you are.
How do you want to look? And
yeah, it's like, no, we're going to write our own bio. So we wrote our bio, and it was the worst decision we ever made.
yeah, I was like, really?
Because we had started to see what the press were latching on to, even as we were playing the clubs in L.A., and every article said, like, quirky, geeks,
Right.
fun, all this stuff. And so we said, okay, write whatever you want, but do not use any of the following words. Quirky, geek, we just went down this list.
You try to give them a restriction.
Yeah.
We literally did that.
Aw,
It's
damn.
just the worst first move.
I know. My trick was whoever wrote the worst review of your album, you hire that person to write the bio of your second record. That way, by conflict of interest,
Oh,
They can't review this.
right? They can't review the record. So, like the 6 critics that never liked the Roots or whatever, like I've always made sure that they.
Brilliant.
And then one of them caught on, like, wait a minute. Oh, I know what you're doing. I was like, yeah, exactly. I'm stopping you from trashing.
late, though.
Right. Exactly. Well, first of all, getting a deal at Geffen, like, why did you guys choose DGC at the time?
Well, a lot of the bands that came up with us or right before us, they went the indie route or the faux indie route where they signed with was it
Caroline.
Carolina. Oh,
or-
wow.
Yeah, one of those smaller independent labels, and then they
Sub Pop, was that?
yeah, and then the
but
plan
they were
is to
farm teams for the big labels.
yeah, the plan is to graduate to the big label for the second record, but we're like, no, we love these songs. We think this is going to be an incredible album. Who knows? This may be it. You never know. So we want to go straight to a major, and so we made the demo tape. We shopped it around, and everybody passed except Geffen came back at the very end.
Who was the A&R?
Well, it was a junior guy who didn't even have the power to sign us. His name is Todd Sullivan, and
Okay. I know, oh, yeah, trust me, I know the
Yeah.
entire
Okay.
staff there. Yeah.
so
Tony Berg kind of backed him up, I think.
right. So he was like the last person in LA to actually hear the tape, and he was like, "Wow, I like this." So he went out on a limb and signed us.
What year did you record the demo tape?
The demo tape?
Yeah, when did you?
At the end of '92.
Were you guys fully aware of the paradigm shift that was happening? Because again, like you're moving to LA, like no one really saw Nevermind coming in the rearview mirror and being the
Oh, right.
paradigm shift that it was. So, but in your mind, while you're doing this in '92, like how aware of of a Nirvana, of a Pearl Jam, of what we now know as grunge culture, like coming around the corner? Because you guys don't fit in
Yeah.
to any of those boxes.
Well, we were well aware by that point. Because of working at Tower Records from 1990, I was hip to Nirvana and the Pixies and Sonic Youth and all these bands. I never would have heard any of that stuff if I wasn't working at Tower Records. So we actually, before Weezer, Pat and I started a grunge band, and we tried to sound like Nirvana.
It was rad.
Yeah, it's ish. And so that was,
So can you explain to me, to an outsider sort of studying it from afar, if I hear we're starting a grunge band, then of course, yeah, I might play the idiot role and just be like, okay, you guys wear flannel. But like, just in terms of, what do you distinguish the genres? Because for the longest, even when I worked at Sam Goody's, in my mind, when the day that Appetite for Destruction came out, and I'm working at Sam Goody's when the original cover was, if you remember, there's 2 covers for Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. original one was like banned. It was like a woman, some robot.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
you know, and so immediately I was just been like "Pfft, heavy metal, and then someone kind of the Jack Black figure of that particular record store was like, you know, well actually that's, you know, hard rock or glam rock, and I was like, well, what's the difference? Like it's loud guitars. How do you differentiate like the
Between genres.
the genres? Yeah.
None at all. These guys are the ones that would strategize and be like, all right, you have to cut your hair. You can't wear that. And I'm all like, but dude, let's just fucking jam. Like, let's go. Let's
But
go.
sonically speaking,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah, there is. I think there's some meaningful differences that anyone would pick up on. So grunge to me, our band was called Fuzz, is much more blues based.
okay.
Pentatonic.
And a little more active riff wise, pentatonic and blues based. And then vocally, I was trying to sing more like with a scratchy type of voice, which I'm not at all suited to sing like. I guess more in the Black Sabbath tradition.
Almost Janesy, though.
Was
Yeah,
the lyrical content different too because of?
Yeah, it was a little more swearing and a little more abstract and impressionistic. I think, yeah, very influenced by Jane's Addiction. And then over the course of the first year of working with Weezer and writing those songs, the big shift is okay, let's write in a major key and let's use these common chords
Yeah.
you'd
That's
hear.
so risky though,
Yeah.
because like major keys don't reek of like
Angst.
Yeah.
like it's not exclamation point. Even though, especially like for me, the most notable thing about My Name Is Jonas is actually how you end the song. You know what I mean? Like it's bookended by
Acoustic.
just on surface. Like the guitars come in, the electric guitars come in later, and so I see it as wow. There's I don't know if you would say if Brian Wilson had a super hard edge to his musical work, but for me it was just nothing I ever heard before, with someone embracing the sound like acoustic guitar and pretty melodies and whatnot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this angst thing, which I think is also effective. Like for me, I felt like I was such a massive fan of Public Enemy. And I really loved the way that their aggressive sound gave me release as a listener.
Yeah.
You know, I was
Yeah.
a very non-aggressive guy, but put these headphones on and suddenly my walk is
Yeah.
harder. And, you know, that sort of thing. Like, "Argh," like
Yeah.
you feel that. And I felt like that's what you guys were sort of doing. But there was no one to slap you on the hand. Like, what was Ocasek saying at this time in terms of...
Ocasek. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'll take this one.
What was Ocasek saying at the time when you're presenting these songs? Like,
Well, I mean, he was song guy all day, and that's what attracted him to us. I think, as he heard River's songs, and he was like, "These are great songs," and that's where.
How'd you link up with him?
It was Todd at Geffen at DGC was really forced us to work with a producer. We didn't want to, because growing up making demos with different engineers and producers, they'd always start turning the knobs to where it doesn't sound like us or it just sounds whack. And but he said, "You got it. It's your first record. This is a major label. You need a producer." And then one day I was in the supermarket shopping for ramen noodles or whatever, and Just What I Needed by the Cars came on.
Oh wow.
right.
And dun, 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 dun. And immediately I recognized, like, whoa, that's kind of like what Weezer's supposed to be sounding like. Let's work with that guy. So they sent our demo tape to Rick, and Rick responded immediately. Like, I'm talking on the phone with Ric Ocasek from the Cars, and he gets us like nobody else in LA music industry had gotten us yet. So it's like, yeah, this is going to be exciting.
What was he like in the studio, man? Because I was a Cars fan, but like, what was he like production
He's a
wise?
sweet man.
Word.
Just
Yeah.
a lovely man.
Yeah.
And musically, he was, you know, we looked up to him a lot, and when if he said something, we had to be like, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
Sensei. Yeah.
And
How do you decide where the power falls? Because I'm still trying to determine if there's really such a thing as a democracy or just the idea of a democracy. Like, do you guys meet ahead of time and communicate before you get with Rick, or you just say, okay, he's the leader? And because I've been in situations where people try to like buddy up to me and sort of, you know, give their 2 cents and don't let the other guys hear it, that sort of thing. Like, how do you balance communication and?
you mean especially between us and Rick, or?
Well,
us and the
yeah, I
producer?
mean between you guys and Rick, and just as the group, like, is it a thing where it's like all of you get an equal say, or?
Well, I think especially at the time working on the Blue album, Rick, he was just perfect for us. He knew when to push, and most of the time he just let us do our thing.
Yeah.
And when it came time to push, you know, he was insistent, and he kept coming back and back again and again. Like, you know, you really should consider putting Buddy Holly on the record. No, that's for our second record.
The last song.
Yeah. Like,
That always happens.
next day, come on, man, give it another listen. I think you guys should really finish this one up. No, that's for our second record, you know. But he just kept coming back, and he was so sweet that eventually it's like, okay, let's try it. And then like, dang, he's right. And he did the same thing with my guitar sound. I walked in like with a super muddy sound. I was using the neck
Humbucker
pickup.
in
Yeah.
the neck position.
When I was writing by myself in the garage, it sounded amazing. It was huge, fat sound, very bassy. It just didn't work in the context of a full band and a big studio. So he kept saying, "Why don't you try this guitar?" And he'd hand me his '58 Junior, Gibson Junior, and I'd try it. I was like, "No, that's too thin." But he just kept coming back, and then eventually, when I hear it all in the mix, it's
It's just
like,
gonna
"Dang,
cut
he's
through.
right again."
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the process for finding guitar sounds? Was it like guitar, pedals, amp, and like where was the finagling done the most? Like, because I mean, the guitar sounds of Weezer are the most iconic guitars in rock and roll, in my opinion.
It's
And, like,
pretty straight in.
just like right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Rick's guitar. I use it to this day.
Wow.
And
Word.
no pedals.
No pedals,
I was
just-
totally against pedals.
You are?
Yeah.
Just Marshall stackage.
In
11.
fact, just the other day, I sent a note to the mixer about a Tom Petty cover we just did and said, "Can we hear it without the effect on that guitar?"
Yeah.
We're
We're still like that. Like,
Yeah.
no reverb.
Because I don't know, like engineers and producers, they keep adding things like that because they feel like they got to do something. But I like just the straight up sound.
Sure. And one more question about, we were talking about, my name is, sorry to interrupt you. My name is Jonas. Like the arpeggiating acoustic guitar business, is that more of like a Yngwie shredded situation, or like was there a classical music world? I mean, it's not really Yngwie, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, does it more come from like Elliot Fiske nylon-y business, or like where did that come from?
It came from Jason Cropper, who was in the band at the time, and I was his roommate. And he was just walking around with an acoustic guitar doing that. I'm like, what is that? And he showed it to me, and I kind of arranged it into a 4-track demo and gave it to Rivers. And he
And that's
added
how-
the climbs at the end with the you
Yeah,
know, two
so
guitars.
Jason was like a little bit of the odd man out in the band because he was a little bit younger and he was from Northern California. The rest of us are all East Coast guys. So in walks Jason. He's like this big hippie guy and like all kinds of finger picking on the acoustic. And in fact, for the first year of the band, he only played acoustic. So it's like,
But he was so burly that every show, one song in, pow, there goes a string. So like, we were like, maybe you should play electric. But he played it aggressively.
yeah,
Dude, what a character.
yeah, love that guy.
He was pretty hippie.
Yeah.
How old were you when you made that first album?
23.
So,
Which was the age Brian Wilson was when they made Pet Sounds.
Wow.
Just a comparison.
15 #1 songs into their
So
career.
go fuck yourself.
Yeah, lyrically speaking, what is your process for just your songwriting?
I think I was a bit torn. Is definitely influenced by the Pixies and Nirvana, where you can't quite tell what they're singing about. It's not like a traditional song lyric, and so it never sounds corny. It's just always weird and intriguing. So I had that.
Open.
Yeah, I had that side to me for sure. But then I also, and like maybe you can hear that in the Sweater song or Buddy Holly. It's like, what the heck is he saying? My name is Jonas. But then I also liked really straightforward, plain language, just talking about my emotions, what I'm going through. And, I was influenced by Brian Wilson. He did that a lot.
Right.
They have a song called In My Room. It's
Yeah.
just singing about that safe place. And so we did a song called In the Garage, kind of same thing, talking
I
about
didn't know that.
Kiss posters and
All right.
on the wall.
For me, it just felt like a cathartic release that you really just don't hear. And, it's not the... Give me an example of like a power lead singer that is singing as opposed to emoting, which is hard to do. So for you, how personal is this record?
It was extremely personal and cathartic, and writing is just the best feeling to get my feelings out into a lyric and melody and feel like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I'm feeling right now. And I just really expressed it. I'm not good at that in normal life, in a conversation or something, or in my relationships. So to get it into a song,
So you
and
got to
to
get
be
it
able
out
to-
in the song.
to be able to hear it back and rewind the tape and listen to it again, it's like, yes, that is it.
For me, music is always a priority more than what the message is, which which is why I don't have a lyrical say in the roots. But this album catches on immediately. Were you guys at all shocked at how it caught on? Like, no one goes in here saying, okay, it's going to be a multi-platinum record. Like, or did you figure that this is going to catch on to?
I had both voices in my head at the same time. It's like, part of me is thinking, we're going to sell 100 copies to our friends and family. That's going to be it. I'm going to go back and get my job at Tower Records. That was cool, but it's over. But part of me is thinking, this album is amazing, and this band is amazing, and once the right audience picks up on it, this is going to be huge, and it's going to go on to be an important album for a long time. So I had both those voices in my head.
What were those early shows like promoting once the album came out? Like how many? Well, it was also the period of us as Americans getting to know the festival or
Right.
this whole new way of presenting your music. Like, what was the process of promoting it? Like, who did they pair you with? And
What was the circuit?
Yeah.
The key was honestly KROQ and MTV. That was the two big levers that we were fortunate enough to be involved in.
Yeah, they first bigger tour was with Lush. We were opening for Lush, and that was just kind of was like, whoa, that's a really cool band, and it's great to be out with them. And then we went out with Live for a couple months, and that was great because they were at a much bigger audience. Those were bigger venues.
And at this time, Undone over the summer had been a thing, and then were we at the Buddy Holly stage at that point?
Yeah.
And then the Say It Ain't So after that.
I was going to say, I'm just now remembering.
Lots of radio shows too.
Oh my God.
I remember once having an argument with one of our video directors because I didn't realize. Well, obviously, the Sweater song had to have been tracked. What the song was Twice as Fast, right?
Yeah.
You guys were doing it on 45. Because I couldn't. For me, the coolest part of the Sweater video was how I don't know if who's the one snapping? Is Scott snapping his fingers?
That's Matt.
Matt, yeah.
Oh, Matt. Right. Just right. And I kept micromanaging our director. Like, nah, man. Like, I want a cool moment. Look like I don't see the cool moment. Like, we don't look cool. We don't look as
And comparing yourself to Weezer, you were
dog.
thinking that?
Like,
So much revelation happening today.
you don't understand. Like, no, all the time at the label, like especially when it caught, like right before Buddy Holly came out, like all the interns, all the just the everyday workers at DGC or whatever, like you guys were their hero. It's always like Weezer, and then they would, you know, when it's time to choose video directors or whatever. Okay, well, we'll show you all the video directors that Weezer looked at, and da-da-da-da-da, and we can't afford Spike Jonze or whatever, and we didn't have a relationship with him at the time, so you know, I hated the video process. But how did you guys hook up with Spike? Because
Yeah, I mean, we felt the same way. I remember when we turned in the records, we just said we're not making a video, forget it. And
why?
We had a lot of requirements.
yeah, I thought videos were stupid, but and they sent us a whole bunch of treatments. That these are like one or
treatments.
two page.
Didn't you hate those?
Yeah,
Treatments.
and every single one had something to do with a sweater, and it was like, oh, come on. But then we got one from Spike, and it was like 2 sentences or something. You know, you guys are playing in
Blue background.
in front of a blue background, and halfway through a pack of dogs runs across the screen. It's like, and it's all in one
In
shot.
one
It's all
shot.
one shot, yeah.
Okay, good, that sounds cool. And
How many takes did that take? I'm very obsessed with that video, and especially when the dogs would run by, and I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
awesome.
God damn it, like something so simple being like super effective. How many takes was that for you guys?
It was one day.
Yeah, it was a lot of takes, all different speeds.
I imagine it was later because I figured like your level of silly, like when
Yeah.
you're dancing at the drum set or whatever. Like,
I can't look at it.
was there any editing trickery, or was that actually like?
No, it's all one take. It's one guy with a steady cam, and he was. It was a lot of work. Like he was
He
sweating.
was exhausted by the end.
Yep.
Was it choreographed the same way each time?
He sort of had a circuit that he would do, and I think the one we wound up using was the one.
Yeah, that was probably one of the last ones.
Wow. I want to ask y'all about the Guitar Hero, and my name is Jonas, going in that. What made y'all decide to do that, man? Because that opened up a whole new generation
Oh, yeah.
to you guys' music. Like my kids, me and my boys, like we would play that all the time.
Sadly, I think I didn't know what Guitar Hero was, or I wasn't part of that decision. It was like, sure, if you guys think that'll be cool, and it did turn out to be massive for us. Yeah, bringing in a whole new generation of
I think
fans.
also we haven't touched on is the Windows 95 install CD.
Right.
Had a folder called videos on it, and this was back. You remember, like nobody watched a video on their computer. That was like what is this sorcery? Like what is this? And so many people say like, yeah, the Buddy Holly video on there is amazing.
Yeah.
So just all kinds of stuff like that were huge for us.
I used to work at an actual Big Al's. At one point, Big Al's had his own restaurant chain.
Really?
Why are you shaming me?
No, I mean I didn't know that.
Wait, you didn't know that?
No.
What's Big Al?
Yeah, what is
Al-
it?
From
Al's
Happy
Diner?
Days? I assume you're talking about.
What?
Are you talking about from Happy Days?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Big Al's. There was an
Arnold's,
actual
yeah.
before. What's the actual 50s restaurant, like Johnny Rockets now?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
the
right.
chain, yeah.
Right, but before Johnny Rockets, there was, I guess back in '88 or '89, not several, a few of these themed restaurants or whatever. Like at the time when that video came out, like how convinced were you guys that this wasn't? Because that could have been a hit or miss situation. Like, and I'm not thinking that he's going to nail the perfect, television filter and complete with the commercial and all that stuff. Like at the time, what were you guys thinking? about the idea of recreating the Happy Days theme for Buddy Holly?
Well, I think all of us felt that from the moment we heard the idea, this is going to be the greatest video of all time. This is so cool.
We love Happy Days.
Okay.
And
Was Spike your first choice to direct, or did you see?
it was his idea. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we only want to work with Spike to this day.
Okay.
But he's making movies and all that. But we actually knew him from before any of us had made it too. He was kind of part of the same circle of friends.
Sort of like a skate thing.
Yeah.
You guys are skaters?
No, but our older brother band, they were called Wax. This
Okay.
is in L.A. He made their video. I think that may have been his first video. And when we saw that, we
The
were
slow
like,
motion guy on fire.
no. That was
Oh,
later.
I love that. They
Yeah.
shot that in Philly also.
Oh wow.
For Hush, it was like them in a kid's playground.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And I actually thought I initially thought that video, the Guy on Fire video,
Yeah.
was you guys as well, but I didn't. What group was that?
Wax.
That's Wax.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Legends.
Yeah. By then, once it catches on, at any point did it feel like this is getting to be too much, or, you know? I mean, do you consider yourselves like, okay, we actually became like a mainstream standard band instead of the underdogs or the nerds that you were supposed to be?
Or like the dog caught the car. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
No, I didn't feel like that. That doesn't feel like why I took the turn I took. In fact, I felt like we never quite made it, because the same year that Weezer came out, the Offspring came out, and they were like
Yeah.
5 times as big as us. Green Day came out, 5-6 times as big as us, and there were
So you still felt like the underdog?
we felt like we didn't quite hit it over the fence, did we? So yeah, I mean, to this day. So yeah,
Really?
Even to this day?
But like, what does
I
it feel
think-
like now? We're like we interviewed Adam Levine from Maroon 5, who cited Weezer as one of his favorite bands of all time. Like, what does it feel like now when you're out on the road and like you're still playing these songs and like you are influential to a generation of bands and sounds and whatever? I mean, does that affect you?
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's
I mean,
I mean, it's
but
amazing.
again, he's like 10 times as big as us.
You know, I
need my money. cuz.
More than that.
without
First band he
Bring
said, though,
me
just
my
for the
money.
record, he was
That's
like
cool.
Weezer. It was the first thing he
cool.
said.
Nah, straight up.
Like, yeah.
without putting it out there, I guess I can see your point of view. I had a very brief, albeit kind of eye-opening conversation with Tom York about Coldplay.
oh my God.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. His perception was like, you know, we're not as big as Coldplay. And the thing is that I started to do what I hate for the fan base to do to me. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, well, you guys don't want to be Coldplay. You guys are Radiohead. You've been it cool. And people will always come up to me like, oh, man, y'all don't care about getting paid or making hits. Like, you know, like you guys just make whatever type of record you want to. You don't give a fuck and all this. I'm like, no, motherfucker. Like,
I give all the fucks.
right.
Yeah, my mortgage gives all
Yeah.
the fucks. Like,
Right. And but my walk away from it was like, dude, and this is before Hail to the Thief. This was like prime Kid A, prime Amnesiac, can't get no bigger. Like, you guys have made it.
critically couldn't get no. Yeah.
Right.
crit-
But
yeah.
they were also playing stadiums like it was unfurling. But you know, in his mind,
Didn't make it.
yeah, it's like, well, you know, we're still the underdogs, and I was like, I don't think so. Like,
Yeah, I think it was something you said earlier about, you know, you had those conversations with Kiss, or maybe it was Gene, and he was saying basically how you should piss off your fan base, or your diehard fans. And for me, getting into
No
you guys'
problem.
music, yeah, no problem. Nah, man, for you guys' music, like Blue Album came out, I was in high school, and so I had a homie of mine I played football with. He was into like all of that stuff. Like, cause I came from mostly hip hop, R&B background, and so he would always run. He would put me on like he was running like Beck and like Ween, and I used to get Ween and Weezer confused. I was like, okay, which one is which? You know what I'm saying? And so he would put me on you guys stuff, and so I knew just, of course, Buddy Holly was everywhere, but I listened to Pinkerton for the first time last night, and so this is my first time ever hearing it. Just whatever. That shit is amazing, dog. So like, just somebody from outside of, I guess, the core fan base, to me, that record, that shit slap. You know what I mean? So, whatever
cool.
that means. No, I was like, oh shit.
But
so, you know what I mean?
But what did you create it? Sort of.
Was it a fuck you or not?
Yeah, was it
Was it a fuck you or not?
Yeah. Were you trying to build and destroy, or
I thought it was going to be huge. I know that sounds crazy.
really?
Yeah.
I could see.
So
it,
here's
though.
the thing, though. It wasn't huge in the way that you thought it was going to be huge, but I mean, I think even you would agree, of your entire canon, and we're not even going through. There's what you guys are on your 17th. I mean, including the EPs right now.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're close to 17. I'm not certain, but in your mind, like, what album is sitting at the top of the canon? To be objective, what is your personal top of the canon album, and then what do you feel as though your piece de resistance is to your fan base?
Or to you?
I'll give you time to think about it because I have this theory that every band tries to do their pet sounds. So, as an aside to his question, did you try and do your pet sounds? Is Pinkerton that, I guess?
I'm curious. I'll ask you, how different did Pinkerton turn out from what you thought it was going to turn out? Because it feels like to
He's
me,
got 3 questions on the plate right now.
it feels like we were burnt from touring a lot and everything, and I hear a lot of, like, to me that's like Van Halen's Fair Warning. Like, there's a lot of angst and anger in the music itself, like in the playing of it. So I'm curious if it turned out the way you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I was totally satisfied. Not more than satisfied. I was in love with it. But I do remember on a mixing day, Ric Ocasek came to LA and came to the studio, and we played him a few of the songs we'd already mixed. Mm-hmm. And he didn't show any reaction. And I
Did that scare you a little bit?
That was the first moment I was like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't going to go like how I think it's going to go.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
Did he finally say something?
No, he never gave an opinion on that. But the way I took that was like this didn't turn out great, and it could have been better. And it's hard.
Did you take that to heart?
I don't want to say like that was the big wound of the Pinkerton era, because there were so many,
Right.
so many bigger ones actually.
Oh man.
But that was the first moment. Yeah, and
Well, how long was it till you realized, like, example, like Prince rushed off stage in Purple Rain, like, absolutely feeling like he just blew it and had to stop for a moment and heard them cheering and was like, oh, they did get it. Like, did you ever have that redemption moment of, like,
yeah,
wait a minute?
I think y'all having that now. It seems like.
It took a while, and so the album came out in '96 and bombed. So by the end of '97, I totally lost my confidence and just kind of went off and lived by myself and was trying to write a third record, but years went by and I couldn't figure it out. I just didn't know what to do. And one of my friends was in another band, and he had been touring around the States. So at the end of '99, he came back and he said, Rivers, there's a new generation of kids out there who love Pinkerton. And that was like shocking to me. I had no idea. And he said, yeah, it's called emo, and that's their album. So then we got the band back together, and we went out and we just jumped on a few shows at the 2000 Warped Tour. and like
It
even
was
before
insane.
before we walked on the stage, there would be another band playing, and like 20,000 kids would be chanting Weezer, you know?
Wow.
And then we walked out there, and at this point, Pinkerton wasn't even in our set list because we're like, oh well, nobody liked that one.
Disassociate, right.
But they were, chanting for those songs, so that's when we, it really hit us.
But
Yeah.
I remember playing like the Ranch Bowl, like was it at Oklahoma or something, in the middle of somewhere in the middle of the country,
97?
on that tour on Pinkerton, and kids being super pumped and knowing all the lyrics to the deep cuts, and that was my first clue. I was like, why? Wow, they know all these songs. I don't know if you were hip to that.
No,
Maybe I could have told you.
yeah.
You were right next to each other.
Right.
You were like right there.
Yeah. Nah, it was for me like hearing that record again. My first time ever hearing it was last night. I'm just just running it, and so for me it was. I could tell how. I mean, of course there was a difference between the Blue album to this, but it wasn't as stark a difference of like. It wasn't like the first album was like a Radiohead record, like a Pablo Honey or whatever, and then the second album was Kid A, where it was just this complete 180, where it's like, what the fuck is this? It felt to me, it felt in many ways like an extension. It didn't. I don't know. It just didn't feel like it was such a big jump. And
That's
so
interesting.
listen to it now, I'm just like, what was the big?
Yeah.
Why was everybody so pissed off? Like this shit go hard. Like what was the problem? But
That's cool.
Rolling Stone was mad.
Fuck them.
Yeah, all the critics there rated it the second worst album of the year.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What was the worst?
I remember that.
Right. Yeah.
Bush.
Like,
Bush.
16 songs.
Razor Blade Suitcase.
Oh, Razor Blade Suitcase. Okay.
So it sounds like it took like 4 or 5 years for it to catch on to
Yeah.
the next
Y'all was just early,
generation.
man.
So if it weren't for you having knowledge that perhaps there's someone out there that is latching to it, did you guys think that it was over by the second album? Like, that's it?
I would go visit him in Massachusetts. He lived
Because it
on,
took 5 years, correct?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was living on the East Coast, and I was out west, and I would go visit, and we would try and get stuff together. But it was a transitional period,
Okay.
Yeah. I want to ask y'all, but the record you guys did with Polow the Don and Lil Wayne,
Oh yeah.
how did that come together?
So we had this song "Can't Stop Partying," and originally it was like this very somber acoustic thing, and the head of the record company, Jimmy Iovine, had like this star producer on his team, Polow the Don.
Yeah.
And he asked me if I would be up for giving it to Polow and seeing what happened. And I remember being in the studio the first time I heard it, and just like my head was blown off. It sounded amazing, and I was a massive Lil Wayne fan. So
Oh, wow, okay.
yeah, when they suggested that, I was all in.
That's what's up.
So,
And of course, Weezer and Wheezy. I had to
You know what I mean?
had to
Come
see
on.
what he was gonna do.
Weezer F Baby.
right. Yeah. So how do you guys? Because I know most rockers hate looking in the rearview mirror in terms of, not wanting to be seen as a legacy act or that sort of thing, or a Vegas run. How are you guys planning the celebration of the 30th tour wise?
Oh, well, we could have planned like a very retro nostalgia thing
Right.
and do it very 94 style, but that would be boring. So for us,
All right.
so we're gonna come up with some kind of crazy production and theme, and I think it's gonna involve a space voyage where we're going to this blue planet.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Wow.
like, with the teasers that you guys are putting on.
Yeah, so
Social media.
so musically, it's gonna be the Blue album, the hits, and some like '90s B-sides stuff those fans really want.
Right.
But there's gonna be an element of production that we never would have tried back then, and that makes
Theatrics.
that makes it fun and interesting for me.
Okay. All right. I'm excited to hear that. Thank you guys, and we appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Respect.
Patrick, Thank you. And yeah, on behalf of
Vuvuzela?
yeah, we do our own sound effects. Yeah, on behalf of Sugar Steve, Bill, and Phonte and Laia, this is Questlove, and we will see you next week. All right. Yes. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.